You're all set, Lee?
Thank you, Jordan. We'll call a meeting to order, Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Thursday, June 26th. With me are legislators Brown and Lane, and legislator Mezey will be joining us shortly. Are there any changes to the agenda that we're aware of? Okay. Public comment. I've got one blue card, and I'm not going to go over the rules for speaking. They're on there, but I have Diana, Cole. Welcome.
Is this good?
You can hear me okay?
I can. I think so if you speak right into it.
Okay. Obviously, I've been here before. So I'm checking in with people as to progress and wondering what's happening with the driveway signs that I've been talking about for like the 8 or 9 miles of Coddington Road. Is any progress on that?
I'm not aware of.
Who makes that decision, by the way, whether those signs stay up or go down?
Looking at the.
Yeah, you? Right, right. But there's not a reason given to me as to why they stay up. I was actually driving through Tioga County, Chemung County, and Cuba County this past weekend, and none of them have all these signs. It was really refreshing to be able to see the natural beauty. So I still don't really understand why we can't take those down. I mean, there's driveways the whole way. So why do we have signs? And then the other thing I've noticed is on Coddington also, from White Church back, is a ton of curve signs when there's very gentle curves. Why do we have curve signs? It's very gentle. And, you know, like I say, in the other counties, there's none. It's like really great. So what about that?
You want me to,
Sure, have a comment.
you want me to talk, Lee?
If you'd like to. We leave this generally in the hands of the highway manager and the town highway
See, now
superintendent.
this is probably your last meeting, you might as well let it go there.
Yeah,
But this, I understand the standards that you work with as far as,
yeah, I don't want to put my back to you, I'm sorry, but I have to.
That's okay.
Signs are for safety, and we will, and I've mentioned this before, we'll look at a specific sign if you want us to, and we will give you a reason for a specific sign. Generally speaking, a driveway sign is to indicate to drivers that are traveling along the road that there's a driveway that they're coming on to, that it could be hidden until the last minute and someone could be pulling out, so it's for the safety of that homeowner. So that's the reason for that. We're happy to look at the specific signs if you want us to, and we'll respond whether it's needed or not. Curve signs are more of an engineering side of things that are looked into with fairly rudimentary, simple piece of equipment, and if the air ball rolls up the side of the ball bank indicator, then by standards we have to put a curve sign on it. So that's why there's curve signs, to indicate to travelers, and a lot of that is for people that aren't from this area that will actually see the sign and pay attention to that, and maybe going a unsafe speed to and able to negotiate the curve.
Okay, my response to that, since I've lived there for 9 years, is there's driveways all the way, and most of them are not hidden. And I also noticed that people do not slow down. They don't really look at these signs. The people just don't care. So what I care about, obviously, is nature and having all those signs down. And like I said, those 3 other counties that adjoin us don't have them. And so I was also wondering how much the cost is in the budget for putting these signs up and how much they cost. Who decides that?
well, that would fall under the respective highway department budgets for signage.
So is there a way I could know about that?
Public information.
If you could, like, Jeff, you could email me how to get a hold of what the budget is for that?
Yeah, our budget's online, and I could help you
Get the link?
help you get the link, and I could help you look at the highway portion of the budget to show you where the line items, because it doesn't say signs, it's mixed in.
Okay. That would be helpful to know how much that is, because you probably know about that. Also, I've just noticed just this past week, I drive almost every day on Columbia Street in Ithaca. And there's a new sign on Columbia Street with children on the sign with an arrow, which is 2 blocks from South Hill Elementary School. Why is that sign there? Everybody knows as you come up Hudson Street, there's a school sign, very obvious. And why on Columbia Street is there a sign saying on the, to turn, when you make the turn onto Hudson, that there's children? We all know that. And it's a one-way street, which is very slow. You're like 30 miles an hour, probably not, because there's lots of bumps. Go 20. So I was wondering why that additional sign went up.
I'm not sure that would be a city installation, and
It would be a city.
on Columbia Street, yes.
Who would I contact for that?
City Public Works Department.
And who is that?
I don't know who's in charge now. But if you look up City of Ithaca, and it would give you a listing for the Public Works Department or
You said Mark who?
Streets Department.
Mark Verbanek.
Urbanek?
Verbanek.
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 Okay.
If you've got a concern with the speed in vehicles on Coddington Road, I think that's something that I could ask the Public Safety Committee to bring to the attention of the Sheriff's Office and the State Police, and perhaps
Yeah. I mean, I have a
it
fair,
could have some additional patrols in the area if there is some concern that the speeds aren't being respected.
certainly true. I have a reasonably good traffic record. And I notice my own way of driving. I don't slow down for those driveway signs. And I know nobody else in front of me does. They don't. It doesn't make any difference to them. And obviously, because there's driveways the whole way. So that's why I'm hoping that that will be remedied. Also, we have spoken before about the dead end signs on Route 79 for Weedmeyer Court, and also a dead end sign for Monkey Run on 366. And these huge signs for those streets. Why? For dead end streets. And the Burns Road is on the Weedmeyer, the same sign, it's a huge sign. And Burns Road has a beautiful green sign at the end of the road. It's so easy to see. And as you know, the majority of us have GPS. So there's no reason why we need these extra signs. So what do we do about those two? Who do I go to for that?
I think those are town roads that come off from the county and the state
So that would
highways.
be Jeff?
Pardon?
So who would be in charge of those?
Burns Road would be, is that? a
Burns
county?
Road is a county road off of Coddington Road.
But the dead end streets tend to be town, either town of
the
Ithaca
areas-
or town of Caroline.
I think the ones she's mentioning or pointing out are off of the state road. I think they would be state signs when they did the new project through Varna, out through, I know Monkey Run and that area. That's off the 366. Now, they installed them under that project. I don't know if they could be owned by the town, maintained by the town, but came upon and being installed under the funding of the project. I'm not sure who actually is supposed to maintain them, but it's not the county.
It's not county. So who do I get a hold of with that, for those?
Well, whatever, you've named multiple roads here.
A couple, yeah, just,
Whichever entity that owns the roadway would be the one that's installing the signs. So if it's on a state highway pointing out the dead ends or what have you, I guess it would be the State Highway Department.
You have,
ELT.
you have my email, right?
Okay.
I know we've emailed.
Right, in the past?
Certainly, you could email me, and I could give you contacts,
Okay,
email contacts, names for all of those locations,
okay.
so that you could
Appreciate that.
discuss that with them. Yeah, it's out there, but I have it right at my disposal. Very
Sure.
easy. I
I
can,
understand.
and I know what area you're talking about, so
Yeah,
that would make it a lot quicker. Then you'd be at least sending your efforts in the correct direction.
thank you. And then we continue to work on the driveways things too, and the curve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, often driveway signs are requested by the people who live in those houses because they're concerned about people driving too fast and coming around the corner, so it's kind of a double-edged sword there. Is Kyneton Road a county road?
Yeah,
All the way out to?
into the city line.
Okay.
Yeah, all the way to the county line.
Okay, thanks.
Jeff, there's a standard set by,
It's Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. There's a New York State and a federal standard.
so like we don't make up where we put signs
No,
unless there's a very specific request that's been highly considered by you and a number of people on your team.
what you do get into areas is, and it's additional signs, and what you're talking about, I think, is what you're referencing, and that's, what they call those are like local signs, like a local policy sign kind of thing that would stray, but it's never a reduction of what's in the manual.
Correct.
It would only be for actual other signs.
Okay.
But yeah, that if the sign doesn't exist in that manual, it's likely we don't put it up. We don't have it anywhere, and and there is directions in all of the manual where they should go, what they should be used for, spacing.
So people aren't making this up on the fly.
We're not just saying we
course.
should put one here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's important too to recognize, I would not feel comfortable as a legislator supporting the removal of a sign because the instance that somebody gets hit out of a driveway, then we've just taken down the driveway sign. And it's unfortunate people don't follow traffic signs and
I know.
traffic signals because they're there for people's safety. So I think the campaign should be around traffic safety and reading the signs and more motorist awareness of signage to inform them of their decision-making while driving, as opposed to eliminating the signage for just because people don't use it. And that would be my opinion. I think we've maybe reached our 3 minutes of public comment, and we should probably move on with the agenda.
Okay, just one last comment. I'm a marriage and family therapist, so I really try to understand human behavior a lot, and this in my own life as well, and changing my own life. And those signs don't make a difference. They really don't. Like I mentioned, I mean, I'm on the road all the time, watching the traffic. Nobody slows down for them, and there's driveways all the way. So they really, I think they're outmoded at this point, and really would like that considered for the natural beauty. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? If not, I don't have a chair's report today. County Administrator Norma, is there anything you want to bring to our attention?
No, not really, just working along on the budget, so no, I have no further reports for this.
Thank you, Norma. Department of Planning and Sustainability, and Terry's with us this morning. I see an announcement come through on some reimbursements.
Yeah, you probably have heard this already several times, so I'm sorry to bring it to you once again. This is in relation to those clean energy tax credits. When we passed the original resolution, we passed it just for the funding that we were anticipating from the federal tax credits, so the 1.6 odd million or 1.7 odd million. What we weren't anticipating was $43,000 in interest because we weren't sent the check in kind of a prompt manner. They deemed that we should receive interest for it. So this is a resolution accepting that interest. And in conversations with county administration, we decided it would be best to be put into the Green Fleet Fund to be able to purchase some additional vehicles this year.
Why don't we get it on the floor and see if there's any questions? Moved by Greg, second by Mike. Resolution before us to authorize the acceptance of 2024 Inflation Reduction Act's IRA Clean Energy Tax Credits for Green Fleet and Green Facilities Capital Programs, ID number 13363. You got questions from the committee? Mike?
I just want to say I'm glad to support accepting more money.
Randy?
Yes, Terry, could you just remind us what the remaining money, the large bulk of money is being allocated to?
Yeah, so $1,747,767 is putting into the Green Facilities Capital Fund. And then originally we were putting in about $38,000 into the Green Fleet Fund. We are now adding this additional $43,000 to it. So in total, $81,481 will be going to the Green Fleet Capital Fund for purchase and lease of vehicles.
And the projects that were being funded with the larger funds, just for public knowledge. So.
Yeah, so the funding that's going into the Green Facilities Capital Fund, some of it's being used to offset the cost of the boilers that are going into the Human Services building. I think roughly like $100,000 is going to that. And then some of it, about $300,000 is going to the solar canopies that are going in at the health department, but we anticipate being able to recoup that expense through the next round of the these clean energy tax credits. So once the solar canopy is complete at the health department, we'll be putting in for these, funding, and we anticipate getting about $300,000. So it'll kind of offset at that point. And then the rest of it is going towards future projects in the Green Facilities Capital Program, or potentially other programs as well.
Thank you.
Lee, I just wanted to ask on that point, Terry, the fund you're talking about, is that a dedicated reserve?
I believe so, yes.
Norma?
Yeah, so this is part of I know planning has been we've been having lots of conversations about this funding, and it's sitting in their capital program. So it's dedicated to a particular project within the capital program. So it's not technically in a reserve, but it's also not part of the fund balance. It's sitting in a capital program that will roll from year to year.
So it doesn't require a resolution to take it out of that fund?
It would require a resolution to move those funds, a budget adjustment to move those funds to any other fund or to any other project. It's sitting in a functional unit within the system. It can't move without legislative approval.
I thought it either had to be in the current budget or it had to be a reserve account, dedicated reserve account.
It's in the capital budget. It is being budgeted within the capital program and recognized as revenue within the capital program, and is sitting in that budget, and it cannot move once it's been passed. So the revenue that was in there from 2025 is there, and in 2026 you will bring forward another capital program, and that revenue is associated with that program, and you will approve that at that time, and that cannot move without legislative authorization to move those funds out of that program.
I guess I'm still a little bit confused.
Okay.
Because I know we have a capital reserve.
Yes.
And we wouldn't put that into something like that. We wouldn't put this into something like that.
We could, but right now it's dedicated to the green building project. So if it's the legislature's wish to put this into a capital reserve, that's fine. If it's in the capital reserve, then the legislature chooses where those reserves are spent. So it could be on any project. Right now, it's dedicated to the green building project.
Okay. All right, we'll talk more about it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So, Katrina.
I just wanted to I just received an email from Finance, and we'd like to make a slight change to the resolution. It would just be to properly identify revenues, and in the line that's HD 8748440978.7.48, we would like to split that into $38,000 for federal aid capital project, and then $43,000 and some odd change into interest and earnings. It would just be to clarify where the revenue is coming from, and I just wanted to make sure that that was acceptable by the committee.
Mover and the seconder, are you all right with those changes?
Thank you.
Further discussion or questions? If not, found revenue, so all in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Terry. Anything you want to update us on at this point?
I guess the only thing I'll say is we're keeping an eye on kind of what's going on with energy prices and electricity prices. And so I anticipate coming back to this committee in the near future to talk a little bit about what we've seen from our current Constellation energy supply contract and what we might potentially want to do moving forward. So maybe a sneak peek for next month.
Terry, thanks for continuing to work on grants. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's very helpful.
Terry, you work with Mega, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers. Appreciate it. We'll move on to the Highway Department. And I don't know, Jeff, if you want to join us, have you got anything that you want to update us on before we discuss the resolution?
No.
Nick, welcome.
Hello. To be clear, we're talking about this resolution?
Why don't we put it on the floor and discuss it? Resolution 6A, authorization to accept 2024, Resolution 7A, budget adjustment, Highway Department, increase 2025 Consolidated Highway Improvement Program CHIPS funding, ID 13386. Greg? Andy, seconds? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is a fairly standard resolution. We do it when there's an adjustment. When we plan our budget, there's about a 9-month lap if there's an on-time budget from Albany April 1st before we know what we're actually receiving in CHIPS. When it's a relatively small amount, we can adjust without doing this resolution. As you can see here, it's $402,000, which would be a considerable amount of funds that would enable us to basically raise both our expenditure and our revenue, so there's no net local cost whatsoever, and it would enable us to also pave like another 2.5 miles of road this year, and by spending this money, then we would also be able to be reimbursed an additional $402,000 this year, so there would be, like I said, a balance, and we'd be able to do more work. If we did not, for some reason, do this resolution, we would have rollover and we would not pave 2.5 miles of road.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Question was raised by county administration on this.
Yeah, and I see courses on too, so he'll probably chime in. But I think there was just in a little bit of the failing in our resolution system is that oftentimes these resolutions come to the legislature before budget has had a chance to review them and ask questions, and that's what happened here. So there were just some questions that were still unanswered about the resolution, so we had asked to postpone this or pull this for this meeting until we had a chance to talk about it with the Highway Department.
I believe you were saying that we were not going to do the resolution. We didn't need it, I think.
No, I asked to pull it from this agenda.
Well, throughout the week, you wanted to pull it because we didn't need it, which I answered you throughout this week in emails a couple times.
Okay.
So just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, so we've unanticipated funding additional to the CHIPS, and that does require under county policy that there be a budget adjustment done to.
I believe that's the case.
It requires that a resolution is passed to accept a grant, yes. Not a budget adjustment necessarily, but to accept a grant for sure, yeah.
Does this timing on this make a difference as far as planning ahead with paving?
I'd say that it'd be a higher level of comfort to move forward if we know we're getting it, but if it's this month or next month, I believe it would be fine.
It's a pleasure of the committee. Greg?
Oh, Randy had his hand up, so Randy, go ahead,
Please
please.
got questions.
Randy has a question.
So how much did you anticipate receiving and how much, is this $402,000? Is that over and above what you anticipated?
Yeah. We have anticipated CHIPS revenue of $4,160,902, and it will be adjusted to, by this resolution, $4,562,956. So the problem with the process, right, when we look at our funding and our budget that's submitted, is our total road budget, including our 2.4 and our material line item 2.4 bond and our material line item of 3.2 something is $5,519,825,000. And even at this point right now, we've spent $1,397,917,000 that is not eligible for CHIPS. So the balance of that is $4,121,908. And the number I just said, like I said, in our budget 9 months ago, we anticipated $4,160,902. So we're kind of in the ballpark right now, and we still have repairs that are not eligible. So we're very much, we've always been very successful to not have any rollover and spend it and receive all that revenue. But it takes a lot of work. And then to get this injection of this higher amount is necessary to do this resolution, to get that money, to be able to spend it, to get the reimbursement. If we don't do this, all you would end up with is a $402,000 rollover into next year CHIPS. Albany doesn't like rollover. Legislators throw it back in our faces that you have rollover, why are you asking for more money? So it's always our goal statewide to spend all this money.
So then you would use this money this year to do another 2.5 miles of pavement?
Approximately, yes.
Right. Okay. So outside of your current plan? But
It would-
moving forward 2026, right?
So our draft plan, right, we're working through, we've paved a few roads, Enfield area. Nick can talk to this for hours. He's very much deep into all of that, but we don't necessarily always get to all the roads on the map that we produce that we need to. And so to say that we're gonna do 2.5 more miles that aren't on the map, that probably wouldn't be true. But it will be 2.5 more miles either on the map, or if we get all done, it'll be somewhere else. But it's probably more likely gonna be on the existing map, but it would be miles that we wouldn't be able to afford without this extra funding.
Understand. Greg and Mike?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand here. Is there any question from administration that this money is going into the highway program?
No question, no.
Okay, so it's just whether we do a resolution or whether we do a budget adjustment?
The resolution is the budget
It is,
adjustment.
there is only the budget adjustment, it's not really the acceptance of the,
Okay, then I'm not understanding the difficulty here. What is administration asking for?
it was to have time to understand what the program is. I mean, this is his, what, sixth month? Here he is. Thank goodness. Go ahead, jump in there, Corsa.
Yeah, I think my thought process was in line with the questions from Randy. So one of the things that I'm trying to understand and also bring to bear with all of us, as Jeff indicated, is that we have a road plan for the beginning of the year, and then we make determinations whether we will, how to fund those road plan. So it's either with highway CHIPS funding plus other borrowing, and then that makes up the total amount we intend to spend in this year. My thought process is what I wanted to get opportunity to sit down with the team, because we have this injection of additional funds. Do we just expand the amount of work we want to do, or do we do some cost rationalization whereby we can move around the CHIPS a bit in terms of maybe not borrowing the level which we intend borrowing at the beginning of the year, knowing how much we were going to get or what our projections did show. So I think it's a collective and it's a team effort. We want to just be able to use or tap into our funding properly, not to mean that the funds are not being used properly, but to be able to stick to our intended plan in the first place. As Jeff indicated, there's sometimes a difficulty with rollover, and the states, yes, are not comfortable when there is a rollover. Basically, what that shows is that you're not using the funds that we are giving you really, and if there's a multiple years of rollover, sometimes may lead to your allocation maybe being reduced. But what we are trying to understand is there a possibility that we can adjust the local portion, which probably is borrowing, and maybe expand what we have, whether with the funding, with the extra injection that we got. So that is what I'm hoping that we could collectively discuss and see if there's a rational approach to that process, whereby we know it's one single pot of money, either it's the state or it's local. If we are getting a little bit more as state, can this local portion be a little bit reduced? Because at the end of the day, it's local taxes. So if we're able to shrink the local portion a little bit because we get more external, great. But if we have to expand, like as Jeff said, this allows us to do extra 2.5 miles. Where that the extra 2.5 miles fit within our plans? Do we have the capacity to do that extra 2.5 miles? Anyway, so that is the conversation that I wanted us to be able to get opportunity to have, review the plan itself, and identify if there's a need to increase funding to do more or sustain the funding, still tap into the additional 2.5, additional 400,000, and in turn reduce the county's portion. No matter what the case may be, there's significant amount of work that we tap into local funding to do. There's cheap, uneligible funding projects that we undertake all the time. So it's just about rationalizing our effort and making sure, one, we stick to the plan that we have. If the plan is inadequate, but because we have additional funding, we can adjust the plan upwards. If the plan is adequate to keep us ahead of our road maintenance program, then we may be able to be in a good position to maybe reallocate our funding to other programs or reduce the amount we have to borrow or we plan to borrow at the beginning of the year.
I think I understand what you're saying, except I think we've always used all the CHIPS money for roads, which is, I think, what the state wants us to do. I don't think there's any problem with, certainly you're discussing it with the department.
Absolutely.
But
So we do not.
But if you're...
The fundamental issue is that as administration, we do not agree to we do not disagree to the resolution at all. We will have to recognize the increase in the in our budget and utilize it. Yes, but we're looking at because we have close to $500,000 injection into our program. Is there a need for us to relook at the program and do an adjustment if necessary? If we do not need to make an adjustment to our program, great. The other thing, as Jeff said, we allocated $5 million in the budget. They've used $1.5 million. So if we do not pass the resolution this month, it's not going to curtail or delay the project at all. We will have sufficient time to do the budget adjustment at any time. And I believe that we will have the opportunity to meet around and discuss the resolution before we reintroduce it next month.
But if we take the position that because we got an extra $400,000, we can spend $400,000 less in the highway department, what I worry about is exactly what I know is on your mind, and that is what's the state going to be doing to us if the federal bill goes through? And does that mean that they will be cutting back on CHIPS next year, for example, and we won't have as much to spend? I would be very, very concerned about that. And I think you folks should talk, but I just think this money should be used for the highways.
Yes, and that is exactly where it's going to stay. CHIPS money, you cannot reallocate it to a different program. That is not.
But you can reallocate county money. And
you can.
That's what I
it's
think
all about.
you want to talk about. I don't, and I certainly understand that. You're their chief budget officer.
Lee, may I?
Yes.
I'm wondering if we pass this resolution, or if we entertain the resolution as it's written, and that gives county administration and the highway department between now and July 15th to come up with something different, because that's when it would be presented to the legislature. It's at the will of the chair to pull a resolution from the legislature agenda if it's passed out of committee. So Lee, you could pull it if there's an alternative that needs to be presented. My concern is that we wouldn't meet in this body till after, late in July, and then we don't see it again till August 5th at the
minimum.
At the minimum, if not the 19th, depending on timing for the meetings. So it doesn't come out till late August, and then I just worry about paving season and planning. Because I mean, who knows with this weather what we're going to have. We'll probably have snow in August. But I don't know, would that be sufficient time, or does it have to be pulled, or can we move it through the process? You can have the conversations. It sounds like there's members of the committee who want to see this used for its intended use. Of course, I hear your question. I think it's a good one, and I think we should be asking these questions, and department heads should be engaging in the conversation. How can this impact our local budget? But I don't know. I just throw that out there as an option.
No, I think that's reasonable.
I have a question. I agree it should be used for the highway funding. And you always look at budgeting for 2026 in this vein, as what the county funds are. But I have a question. So material costs, how much have they gone up this year?
We haven't had much escalation from month to month like we've seen on past years. It started at what we anticipated. It hasn't been too volatile. Nick could probably tell you exactly what we're paying for whatever product that we're buying, if it's binder, top, and things like that. But
The oil prices have stayed steady somewhat. So.
yeah.
Yeah, so the asphalt escalations have been very minimal this year, which is good, which does follow the oil. All of our bids generally come from, we do our bids in March, so our gravels went up $1 or $2. Everything inflated some, but right now the biggest would be the asphalts, and they're, it's $1 or something. It's pretty minimal.
Thank you.
Committee want to move it forward, but hold the thought that we may pull it if in that discussion with the administration and highway manager, another option comes forward, or
I think we just
request.
Push it forward.
Is that okay with Corsa? If we do it that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any issue at all in terms of how we deal with it. But one thing that I'm just trying to get people to understand is that we have a budget. Where are we within our budget? If right now I'm trying to pull this information to see how much do we have in our materials line. So if you have, for example, $1 million in material lines, we only amend the budget when we are going to exceed the amount in there. But if we are not exceeding the amount in there, it doesn't become a necessity to amend the budget at the time. We need to amend the budget when we are having a shortfall. So the fact that we are receiving more money doesn't mean we just amend the budget if we're not going to spend it immediately. So those are some of the permutations I'm trying to get our staff to understand, so that, because this is a collaborative effort, this is a working together through maximizing the utilization of funding. County administration do not have any objection at all in terms of the program intent. but we just wanted to make sure that we are rationalizing the resources that are available to us.
Thank you.
I think at a minimum, it recognizes the revenue, and the expenditure can be directed
Can't do that.
anytime at a later time.
No, we can't do, you can recognize that that the grant has been approved, but if you're going to do a budget adjustment, it has to balance. So it's got to increase the appropriations as well as, okay.
Understood.
Okay.
Further discussion?
I have one last. Is this your last meeting, Jeff, with us? Or?
I'll be here next month.
Okay, so I can ask that question next. I wanted to see what your thoughts are on the impact of this, so we'll cross that bridge later.
Looking forward to next month.
Great, I'll bet you are.
We're not.
Any other questions? Given all of that, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Gary?
Thank you.
You got anything else for us today, Jeff?
Can I mention something before Jeff leaves?
Yes.
I'd love Jeff, if he has something else, tell us, but
I was just going to, because it's later in the agenda, the budget adjustment, see if there's any questions on that. That was the only thing, because if I pop out, you won't have that ability to ask me. We're moving money to fix a red flag on a bridge. There's an explanation at the bottom. That would not be CHIPS eligible.
Is that a new sign?
I would like to get your thoughts on the culvert on Iredell Road where the beaver have been persistent. Do you guys put a new culvert in there? Do you think that's going to solve your issues of?
No.
No.
I'll let Nick's very familiar with the area.
No, it's not going to solve our issues. The culvert was corroded on the bottom, so it was failing. So we wanted to get it replaced before we paved. And in doing so, we replaced it with a plastic one, extended it a little bit, cut it at a 45, and stacked some stone up. The whole point of the angle was so that we still have to have the grate in there for the beavers, but we can pull in with a pickup, one person, hook a chain, pop the grate, everything goes down, flip the grate back. It was a quicker way. This year, they've been very persistent. Usually it's about 3 or 4 times, and they leave us alone for 6 months, but they've been steady. So now we are ahead of them, and I'm trying to keep up with them. But it's 5 minutes instead of 2 people, machine. So it's a little more efficient. We have a few of them out there we've changed like that, and it seems to be helping. We can deal with it quicker.
The constituent that contacted me many times on this, and plus somebody lives very close to that. The Griffins live not far from there, and real close to there. And he says it's just, when he was a kid, it was a problem down there. So, and he's my age, so. But she did send me information on some, and maybe I don't know if I sent it to you or not.
I got
on some beaver control thing.
Yep, I looked at, there was video. I don't deny that works in some capacity. It's more designed to be more remote areas. My opinion of it anyway was that it's not as durable. It's kind of doing the same thing we do with a grate, but the grate is close to the road. Right. And I did respond to that, but we have the luxury, right, of coming in and being close to it, whereas their concept is more
Push your way out.
out in the water and everything else, and it would just,
I get it, yeah.
the design of it wasn't as durable, what I saw. I mean, I think it works. I know it works because they show it, and it's a very good information to share, but we do kind of something similar, but we use rebar grate, and then we can hook things and pull it out. We do have the equipment. It's right off the side of the road, and what we're doing is working, and we do it all around the county.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of water there.
Yeah, there's.
One of the problems with that style is that works well when you can leave the water there and it's not affecting other properties or the roadbed. The problem here is if we did that and it moved it out, a lot of those let the levels come up and it keeps the beavers happy, but they can't plug it. But this one is into the roadbed, so as that water sits there, it saturates the roadbed and the farmer's field up on the little side road, the town road right there.
Right.
That person has been on us before for flooding their field. So
Well, thanks for looking at it.
hopefully they move out a little farther, and if they put their dam back away from the road, we'd be fine.
Yeah. Thanks.
Mike?
Drove over from Dryden to Sladeville Monday night for our Center of Government meeting, by the way, and noticed it was, as you know, very, very hot and sticky, where Irish Settlement Road and Midline Road does the 90-degree turn there shortly before you get into Route 79. The material looked like it had been chip sealed. I was thinking it just was deteriorating, and the cars were ripping up the gravel, and they were carrying the oil on their tires way up onto 79. And I just wondered if that was a bad mix that we got through there or something, whether you'd happen to notice it or heard anything about it.
I was out there with a crew Monday night doing some emergency stone spreading to keep vehicles clean and to save the road. And we did have our salesperson from Sucoat there, and we had one of their chipper operators. And what we came up with, which makes sense, is that was a cold in place recycle last year. So we added stone and oil, ground it up, laid it back down, and then put a chip seal over it. Made it through the winter, did lots of movement, went kind of back in place, and then we decided we had took some of the stone off in plowing, that we'd chip seal it one more time and be done. So we did. Everything's been great. That night, the road temperature was 145 degrees, and air was like 98, 99, and it was moisture in the recycle in the road that was turning into steam. And as the steam came up, it was like little volcanoes, but it rewarmed that oil in those locations, because it was very weird in the spots that it did it. It wasn't consistent, even from one tire track to the other. And it was a moisture problem. So we spread 1B stone, which is almost like a sand. It just, it breaks it up, takes so it's not sticky anymore, gets back into the oil. And I'm not sure of the exact repair yet. We were waiting to let things calm down and see. It's quit tracking. We caught it. It would have been nice to catch it 2 hours before it started to peel. So we do have a few bad spots. The actual tracking is not an awful thing. It's just darkening. And a lot of our chip seals, we've had a crew for 3 days going around. A lot of intersections usually. That one up there, the corner was, a lot of traffic coming in there at 40, 50 miles an hour. Everybody turns hard, causes a lot of friction, a lot of excessive heat on top of the, 140.
Yeah, when I went through both times, it was only in the southbound lane.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know whether it got into the northbound lane or not, but
Well, we
anyway,
did
I think
in
it's
the
wonderful that
corners.
you guys are right on top of this. I couldn't ask for more than that.
We got some notifications, and that one we didn't expect. We were around some of our other ones earlier in the day, and then got a call at 4:30 and went out and said, whoa. So we brought the truck out, and it actually looked like we were spreading salt. We thought we were back in the wintertime, but it was stone, and it worked. So we're monitoring it, and hopefully we can get it touched back up and won't have issues.
Thanks again.
Anything further for highway? Well, we'll save our swan song for next month here.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Airport, Roxanne is with us. You've got a guest, and
Can I ask what the status of the search for a new director is at this point?
of course, are you able to answer that?
Right, okay.
Yeah, so currently we are working with Human Resource to get the job description updated. I believe Jeff sent some good information as to how the job description need to reflect the current need. So human resources evaluating input from Jeff at the moment. So we anticipate that process to complete hopefully by the end of this week. So we should be able to post the position next week.
Thank you. So updating the job description and then be ready to post the position promptly. Okay.
That's correct, yeah.
Thanks, Corson.
You're welcome.
Roxanne.
Good morning.
You've got something we've been anticipating for some time.
I'm sure you have, and I appreciate the patience with it. I wanted to make sure we really went through it thoroughly and gave you the best version of the plan and pull out the critical points that we felt that we could work with at the airport and the county that make the most sense, that, you know, go for the goals and the strategic plan that we're looking for. So we did that. So I appreciate the patience in waiting for that. I will introduce, so this is Chris Stephanie. He's our marketing director at the airport. He's helped tremendously, and I'll let him go over some of the marketing stuff within the strategic plan at the end that he can share and what we've been doing and you know, and how we've actually, you know, I mean, we've started this process already. We've been doing things and trying to move things forward and get the airport back self-sustaining. Again, that's our, you know, one of our goals. So we'll kind of go over through that with the plan. But I want to start off with Airport Day is coming up, so we do have some flyers out, and I can send some down here. Saturday, September 13th, and it's actually Airport Day and Preparedness Day, County Expo, so there's going to be other county departments there. That was a great success last year, having other departments there for the community to see not only what the airport does, but what the county does. It's a nice event. We'll have the pancake breakfast, the runway 5K, the usual things like that. So just put that on your calendars. Come on out Saturday, September 13th. Hopefully it's not as hot this year as it was last year, but it'll be a fun day.
Thanks. So highlights from the strategic plan.
Yeah, so so our strategic plan came in and it was 160 pages. There was a lot of stuff in there that we felt really doesn't make sense, wouldn't really work moving forward at this time. A lot of things with the core group we had, and I want to first off thank, you know, Katie for the help, Greg on the Air Service Board, Norma, Chris, a lot of other people worked a lot, you know, went through it. We had, you know, kind of what we felt was important, and, you know, we took it to the Air Service Board. We've talked about it in our master plan meetings that we've been having as well. So we looked at, you know, there's really the revenue generators. What can we do to increase our revenue? You know, the airport is an economic driver. It is a benefit to the community. It involves, you know, many areas that, you know, local communities don't have. So we are a critical component, not only for air service, but there's other things that happen at the airport as well. So we, you know, tried to identify, you know, some feasible business opportunities, aeronautical and non-aeronautical, that can increase our revenue by creating some, you know, different revenue streams or looking at other ways that we can increase air service. One of the key components is getting our cost per employment down. That's something, you know, and becoming a competitive airport with our surrounding airports and figuring out ways to do that, and which, you know, we're working on. We're going to do that over the next year. So that's something we need to be competitive with our other airports to increase our service. We also, it's critical to work with our current airline partners. That was one of the things that we, you know, discussed, you know, as far as increasing our air services, is working with our current airline partners. And we do meet with them regularly and we'll continue to do so, but gaining new service and how do we do that and how do we best approach that? And then, you know, our marketing, you know, making sure that we're doing, you know, the best that we have with that. So these are the components that we kind of were looking at. Some opportunities, you know, we've been looking at is what we can do, you know, with the customs facility. So I've already put together an RFP with the help of Chris, and that's been through procurement and it's now with the county attorney. So we're going to get that out there. What can we do with the customs facility that unfortunately is sitting empty, but, you know, that could be something that would benefit the airport revenue-wise. There's some opportunities, whether it be an Air Medi center, whether it be, an educational facility. There's opportunities that we're looking at. And it's just really, getting the information out there, getting the best fit to help the airport. The Education Skills Center, there's companies in the southern tier that offer these services, but there's a potential at Ithaca. So again, it's opportunities, it's reaching out to the correct people. We also currently have a T-hanger waiting list. So these are opportunities of what can we do? We have 7 people on the T-hanger waiting list. So that's a great benefit. This is something that we have to look at because the FAA doesn't pay for T-hangers. So we have to look at that. How can we do that? How can we, will it, come back to us? Is it worth building T-hangers? There were other things, the solar farm and battery storage facility, that's been something that's been in the works, with the help of, Terry and Katie as well. So those are things that we're looking at for opportunities for additional revenue for the airport to help us within our budget. Recently, Josh and Corsa did go out to Indianapolis and meet with some airlines out there. So there's continued talks on how can we do that, and getting our cost per enplanement down. That's one of the big things for them. We are in short-term air service. We do have the Small Community Air Service Development Grant. That's actually really looking like it's moving forward extremely well. Looks like we're going to be signing a contract hopefully in July. So we'll be adding a 3rd flight by fall, is fingers crossed, is what we're anticipating. So that'll be a great opportunity, additional seats. Josh and Jeremy are actually in Washington now for the National Transportation Safety Bureau. They're having a class down there for emergency preparedness. And the flight they took out yesterday morning from Ithaca was full, and they were there in Washington, I believe, by 8 a.m. So, great opportunities that are continuing to move forward.
There was some potential for a third one to Washington?
Yep, so that's going to happen in the fall is what the plan is right now. And again, as we continue to fill those flights, we continue to improve, they'll keep them on. So that's just opportunities that we're looking at, and we're meeting with United regularly as well as Delta. Let me skip through here. We've done that. And I'm going to actually let Chris I'm going to move over to what's happening on the marketing side, what we're doing with local businesses, colleges, what our plans moving forward with that are, meeting with people, our terminal advertising, as well as our website. So I'll let Chris go through that information.
Yeah, sure. So we obviously like to utilize our partners here with IC and Cornell. We're meeting with Ithaca College here coming up next month, and we're always in talks with Cornell as well, just to, best ways to reach their students and to, interact and what they need from us, what we need from them, that kind of keep those conversation lines open. We also work with TC3 and BOCES. We're looking at trying to get some internships running with BOCES at the airport. I think that'd be a great way to just get the community involved and get jobs for people. We are always working on our marketing. We do a lot of digital marketing to our local catchment area, which reaches about a 45 mile radius around the airport is our catchment market. We are reaching out to them digitally, radio, print, advertising. We're getting great feedback on our radio advertisements. People love them. They're great out of Cuyahoga Radio Group. Let's see. We're also collaborating with our partners, especially at the Strategic Tourism Planning Board and the Visit Ithaca. We're excited with this grant. There is some marketing funds involved. So if we get this grant to come through, doing some more outreach towards the Washington, D.C. market to get visitors to come here to Ithaca and fly in on our Fly Ithaca. So campaigns like that, which we're really excited to get going here, hopefully once everything's signed with the contract and moving forward. So.
What are you, What have you seen as far as changes in the marketing strategy over the last couple of years?
Sure. I mean, before I
More
came
digital.
on, a big shift of mine when I joined the airport was more digital. So, you know, we reach out to people with intent to fly within our catchment market. So if they're searching for flights, they're looking at travel websites, that kind of thing, we reach out to those and find them digitally, which I think is a more smart way to reach people rather than just that broad, you know, shoot it at the wall, see what sticks approach. So we're really targeted in our advertising to reach people with intent to fly. So,
Questions or anything further? Randy?
So the cost per enplanement, that's for every plane that lands here, they pay $38 or whatever it is, or is that not?
Okay, so I can explain this. So cost per enplanement is kind of a figurative number. So that's come up with, so the airlines, what they pay us based, you know, on their rental and landing fees. So say they pay us $2 million and we have 100,000 passengers. You divide that out. So that's what they're estimating their cost per enplanement is. It's not a fee that they pay us per se. It's kind of how their cost of operating. And currently we're at $32, I believe, for 2025. Airports around us are 5, 7, 10, 12. So our goal, we were at 13 during the pandemic because of the funding we had from ARPA and all that. Our goal is to get back down there to a number that entices airlines. And I believe, you know, the conversations we've had with airlines are, you know, it's not a guarantee, but they're more likely to either increase service or add service if that's one of the goals that we can reach. And our rental rates and our landing fee. You know, that obviously goes up as, you know, our enplanements went down, so also increasing our enplanements. Our enplanements increased 12%, 23 to 24, so we are growing. Our load factor for April on the Dulles flight was 80%. That's a great load factor the first month it was operational. So again, these are things that are improving, and we just have to try to move them along.
So the cost is diminished by the volume of people that.
Yeah, and the more flights we have, so this is also a catch-22, and it's the chicken and the egg, and Greg will laugh at this. We've had this at Air Service Board discussion. So when we tell the airlines, you know, they say they'll come in if the costs are this, which is fantastic. You know, it's not a guarantee, but that's what they're looking for. So if we get it there by also increasing the flights, that's also going to reduce their costs. So we can also go to them. If we don't get it to the magic number that they think they want, if we go to them and say, but if you give us 3 more flights randomly, that's going to bring down your landing fee, that's going to bring down, you know, these costs, and it will be to where you want it to be. So it's that negotiation point that helps. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
Yep. A question. All the revenue from parking, does that come to the county now?
So that comes into the airport, yep. So we get 100% of the revenue. We pay, there's slight fees we pay for the software and the services, but we are collecting the revenue. We're doing, well, right now we're not because the system is down, but yeah, we get the revenue. It comes directly into the county and it'll show in our budget. So I'll have that information with the budget presentation. We won't have a full year's worth. We'll have about 6 months, and we have a couple of months from last year, but where we are, it's definitely been a better service, and it's been a better opportunity for us having our own staff, I think, as well.
Is that parking lot underutilized, would you say? I mean, it's a big parking lot.
It is a big parking lot, and it depends. There's certain travel times where it will be full, and other times it may not. You know, sometimes in the summer months it's not as full, but usually it's a pretty full parking lot. And I usually, when I come down Brown Road that way, that's like one of my indicators of, like, oh, it's going to be a good week. You know, you'll see the parking lot quite full.
Where was your CPE pre-pandemic? The $32.
Probably, and I can pull this up.
Some perspective.
Probably we were headed at like 18, 19 to 10 to 12. It just really would depend. There was some years, like when American Airlines was here, I think we were in the $11, $12 range, but I'll definitely pull that out for you, yeah. I'll make the note of that, and I'll send that out too.
What other local, regional, small municipal airports are doing through general fund contribution to the airports are subsidizing the airport operational costs so that cost per enplanements are lower, so that it's more attractive to airlines to come in. With our enterprise model, we struggle a little bit because we have to use what we collect to operate, minus a few years where we've had some backfill from general operating. But I think Binghamton has like $2 million, $2.7 million of their general fund contribution into their airport operation. I mean, obviously with the limited flights that Binghamton has, they wouldn't have an airport really, if probably that didn't happen. But it helps keep those cost per enplanements down so that they can try to keep, for those airlines interested. And Roxanne and I always have this conversation of like, well, if they just brought 3 more flights and they had this load factor, we could get cost per enplanement down to this. But the airlines really want to see a commitment or a guarantee or something more hard and fast to, can we really get it there, rather than if you build it, they will come. They want to know that it's going to be there. And it's hard for us as an airport to guarantee something because we don't have a mechanism to backfill if, let's say it's $1 off, right? Where are we going to get that dollar from? The airport doesn't have the revenue streams to make up that additional revenue. So it really is chicken and egg, and it's a big scramble. So well done to the airport for trying to figure out how to make sense of it.
I cut you off, Randy.
That's better than being hard-boiled, you know.
Soft scramble, it's a soft scramble.
Yeah, I've flown out of the Binghamton Airport. Is there a worse place for an airport?
And they have 1 flight a day.
I got lost.
and
It was awful.
Yeah.
Never do that again.
You can't get there.
They have their CPE down to like $10.
Right, I'll bet. This is a budgeting question. So you have a lot of equipment that the county owns up there for handling planes and packages and whatnot. And is that equipment in good shape, or do you need to replace any of that equipment? Or I heard that maybe some of the stuff is too old that you can't get parts for it sometime. So is that, you're thinking about that in your budgets at all?
So a lot of the stuff that we do have, like our baggage belt, that is federally capable to be funded, but it all just where it falls into that line item. Our snow equipment, our plow equipment, that's, federally funded, that, we can get our vehicles, same type of thing. And it just really depends. There was a couple things, and of course, we go back to the grant we got. We didn't do part of the project, which it would have made sense at the time to do the baggage belt and all of that. So that's probably one of the pieces of equipment that's a struggle, but knock on wood, we've been able to do a little refurb on it, do some maintenance, and things are going well. The jet bridges, there's a couple of those that we're, continually working on, and things do, they're a few years old, you have to do the maintenance on them, but they're all brand new, our jet bridges, so they're in good shape. They do need some maintenance. The exit lane, we did have an issue with that recently, and again, it's all mechanical stuff, and it's not as easy, it's something that's, you have to have this, the machines to do it. So there are contracts associated with that, so you have to factor that in, but overall, pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mike?
3 things. First one, and Greg, thanks for what you just said, because our airport is often hamstrung by the fact that we don't put more money into it, like some of the airports do. You look at Elmira Corning, they have a corporation that helps them down there. We like it to be an enterprise, and it worked that way for many, many years. But it's not going to always work that way until we can get going again, until the airlines realize that there are local hops that they really ought to be doing again. The economic importance of the airport for our economy is huge. And our marketing person is here, I'm glad. You need to market this. You need to market it to this legislature. and especially the new legislators who will be coming on. We hear even from some of our legislators now about, well, the airport's just for rich people. Why don't we just close it down? Why do we have it at all? Now we have to spend $300,000 a year to supplement it since the pandemic, and why should we be doing that at all? They don't understand what it means to have a global university here and to need to have the access for our student population. And you really need to think about how we get that point through with using your partners like Cornell or Ithaca College and Tompkins County Chamber and certainly our fixed base operator to help paint the story for these folks about what this does for our economic development. I think that's so important going forward here. We don't ever want to lose this airport. We don't have any access to the interstate highway system even. And so as the old term goes, we're centrally isolated, and we really are. So thank goodness we have it, and eventually we'll get back up to where it ought to be. It just takes a longer time. That's one item I wanted to make that little speech. But the second one I want to ask, do you think if we had a warehouse on the site up there, maybe even it was developed by IDA or developed by a private developer, would there be a market for rental of the storage area in it? And I don't know. We've talked about it just on the outskirts over a few years as to whether that might be a revenue source for the airport. So I'll throw that one out. And the other one I want to mention is something we've talked about for a long time, and that's that the airport ought to be the central transportation system for the county. And it's been, at least 5 years since the city of Ithaca has had a bus station. The bus station should be the airport, and there ought to be a shuttle downtown. And the intercity buses should come to the airport. They should have ticketing there. And now we have an entity sending a bus to Boston, twice a day or something like that. And there's the Cornell bus. It ought to be all centrally located where there's parking, which we have, and so that people would know where to go to get to the buses. And we've talked about that over the years, and the city of Ithaca says, oh, no, we're going to build it with the next parking ramp or something, but it just keeps going out further and further before something happens. And I don't know what the intercity buses, where they want to be, but I just think that in going down for the strategic plan, that ought to be a part of it.
I just recently, I have an article, and I will send it to you guys as well, on the state economic impact that the Ithaca Airport brings to the community. I think it's right around 30 million. So I will send you that. It's, I think, back from like 2020. So again, the pandemic has, made some adjustments there. So I'll definitely send you that. I appreciate your comments, Mike. I love what I do. I love the airport. I'm going to work hard to bring us back. I think that's a goal that I have to have. And I think it's important that the legislature understands that. That's one of my goals. Is we've had, when new legislators have come on, they come to the airport. A lot of people come to the airport and they just think they go to the terminal and they take a flight. They don't understand what's behind it, what the money in our budget really is. They think, why are we spending, $4 million, $5 million on the airport? Why is their budget so high when it's just you come to the terminal? We have very fortunate to have the, Teganic Aviation, East Hill Flying Club at the airport. They are a great supporter of the airport. We work well with them as a partner. We got a new agreement a couple of years ago with Teganic Aviation. They've increased what they pay us, which, that was just something that we worked through, and they came up together because they want to support. And Mike Horan is also very willing to support advertising dollars as well. So I think that's a lot of it. It's building relationships, continuing relationships, and coming here and talking to you and sharing information on what we're doing and what we can do and the help that we need. So, and I appreciate, the help that you've given the past 3 years and trusting me to do my job.
Thanks, Roxanne. Greg, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, to Mike, to your earlier point about the marketing, Tim Downs, who's the CFO of Ithaca College, we were recently in an IDA meeting as we were talking about, IAED meeting about the revenue guarantee. And hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, Tim, because I think you'd say this publicly too, but Tim said that when he went to the president of IC with the request to be part of the revenue guarantee, it was absolutely, we need to be community partners. This is essential to the community. And it was kind of a no-brainer for them to sign on. I think they were one of the first to sign on to that revenue guarantee. So to see, not the biggest educational institution in the room really understanding the economic and community impact that they could make by supporting a revenue guarantee, to the tune of $50,000, which is not a small amount of money. It was just great to see their leadership and the way that they approach things. And I think to your marketing point, those are some of those great quotes and things that if we can capture and start to communicate and message, why we fly, and what some of the local, I think the CVB, when they do they change their travel policy at the chamber so that if it's, within $200 of a flight that they should fly out of ITH as opposed to another airport because of the associated travel costs. And, I just had the debate with my friend the other day about why they should fly out of Ithaca as opposed to, and I said, okay, well, what's their daily parking? How long are you going for? What's your travel time? And when you make the case, it's pretty clear that it's convenient. And sometimes you pay a little bit more for convenience, and sometimes you pay less.
Right.
And it's really about looking and being flexible. So, I think we're getting there, right? If you look at our numbers, we're on the climb back. So.
And if I can jump in too, so I've answered phone calls where people are trying to get a flight. I've sat there, taken 10, 15 minutes, helped them find a flight. 9 times out of 10, and I say that directly. I said, it may be $200 more, it may be $50 more. I said, but, always check Ithaca. And, I've had people book right on the phone with me because I found it within $30 to $50 a flight out of Ithaca. It may be leaving at a different time than they normally would, or it may be, can you leave a day earlier? Can you go a day later? And it's just checking that. And so you can get decent prices. And Chris has started something on Fridays where he's posting a price he'll get, and it's less than $100 from Syracuse. I let him talk on a couple that $200, $300 round trip. I mean, total.
It's our social media posts on Fridays. We're doing these flight deals that I find, and I've found them. They're not even $30 price difference from Syracuse, which you'll pay more than that in gas and parking getting up there. So it's just trying to combat that thing that Ithaca is more expensive, and it can be if you need a last minute flight, you're going to pay more if you're trying to fly around college graduation or when the students are leaving for the end of semesters and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's going to be more expensive. It's supply and demand. The airlines know that. But if you're flexible with your flight times and you search more than a month out, you can find flights just as reasonable out of Ithaca.
Well, thanks for bringing this forward, Greg, and thanks for serving with the Air Services Board. I think it's helpful to have your participation there. You're a good conduit of information among a lot of entities there. Just one question. You do a lot of demographics works or study as far as the people using the airport and what communities they come from or businesses, what have you. I mean,
we have some demographics information that's pulled by our consultants. I think it's close to almost a 50-50 split of people, local travelers versus visitors. As far as like demographics breaking down into, you know, how much they make a year and that kind of stuff, I don't have that.
Well, I had this vision at one point in time when Cornell was negotiating new agreements with the city and the town and the school district, that maybe we should be encouraging them as an organization to contribute in some manner, but I'm not sure, given their uncertainties right now with federal funding, that that's probably a discussion that's ripe for having. But I always wonder about, you know, can you directly say how much the impact or involvement from that community is toward the airport versus, you know, other commercial and.
Yeah, we have some it's educated guesses, not direct data. So yeah.
Well, and to Mike's point earlier, maybe being able to counter the argument that it's rich professors that are flying out of there. No, it's a much broader community, and I think that would be helpful for some of us that have to justify those expenditures that come with the general budget here.
I made a note. I'm going to actually talk to Matt Colbert. He's one of the lead people at Intervistas, our airline consultant, and see what kind of data he can come up with. I know a few years ago we did stuff based on zip code, but it's hard because a lot of the information the airlines have, and it's not, you know, transferred over on what they fly. But maybe there's something that he can get from state DOT data that they pay for, like the ability to see that information. But I've got a note here. I'm meeting with him later today, so I'll bring that to his attention and just see, you know, if there's more detailed data that we could get on that. Absolutely.
Something to think about as you're putting it together. So we've got a strategic business plan that's been brought forward to us, and really it looks like there's 3 areas that you're concentrating, leveraging the land and buildings and infrastructure of the airport for broader use. Number 2 would be reducing the CPEs through whatever mechanisms we can, and the 3rd is a broader marketing strategy. And it all looks reasonable. Is there a desire here by the committee to approve resolution on the strategic business plan, airport ID number 13387? Moved by Mike, second by Greg. And in reading this is an adoption of the strategic business plan. Is there a fiscal implication to this, or a general strategy that we're putting forward?
In reality, I think it's a general strategy overall, and we bring information, you know, to the committee, you know, that we're changing. If there's anything needed or any grants or any, you know, opportunities, you know, we'll always bring those forward as well financially. Looking forward with that.
Should we just accept it rather than adopt it? Because you said there were things in there that you didn't think were relevant to us.
So this, we put together like the action plan. So these are relevant, the information we have here, the plan, and I can send you the link for the 160 page. So this is really adopting, like, I believe, the action plan that we put together, that we pulled. So this is feasible information to us that's in this plan.
Okay.
Mike or Randy?
So I just wanted to say, I agree with Mike about bus service. I'm not sure that's the location for the bus center, so to speak, but I think transportation is really important for people to come and go from the airport. I know people I talk to is they don't mind parking there, but you know, you don't know when the flights are going to come in and when they go, and I think that transportation, through, maybe it's through, if people that were flying from New York City or Washington or wherever that were going to Cornell, if they knew when they got there was a bus going to take them there, those types of connections I think would make a lot of sense and help more people go, oh God, yeah, that's a no-brainer. You know, so.
And we're actually working on that. That's something we have been working on, is also like the early morning flights, getting students to the airport. That was one of the concerns. So these are things that are all opportunities that we're working with, and again, meeting with Cornell, meeting with the other, and not only just Cornell students, Ithaca College, and people within the community, you know, if they can get a transportation to the airport, you know, what opportunities are there. But a lot of it is the student transportation mainly too.
Well, the idea of the area, the general area of Warren Road and Brown Road being a transportation hub has been kind of bubbling for years here with us. Further discussion? All in favor of the resolution, say aye. or raise your hand. Thanks. Any opposed? Thanks. Or both. You've also got a resolution, Roxanne, to amend the bylaws, Tompkins County Air Service Board, ID 13394. Is there a motion? Moved by Greg, second by Randy. Changes to the, it's not the composition, it's really a lot of wording in here.
Yeah, so what, when they did the bylaws, the legislature, tried to get the bylaws all in a similar format, similar language, similar information. So when they were doing that as all the advisory boards as a whole, we were currently looking at ours as well. So what we did was there's not a lot of changes technically to ours. We made some of the memberships tied to a community organization, so that, we would always have somebody from Ithaca Area Economic Development. We would always have somebody from the chamber serving, somebody from Ithaca College, from Cornell, somebody from the legislature, Katie from planning. So we would always have that core group of the important people, but also additional ones. We've also looked at adding some members that may not be voting, but also having maybe a student member come. Somebody that, information on the airport that would be critical to them and what the students see, to share their information. So that was some of the information that we changed there, is just updating like how the membership is.
Okay, thanks. Questions or comments? All in favor? Are you with us, Mike? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I just have the budget adjustments, but I don't think you guys need me here for those, so I think we're good.
If there's any questions, they could be raised now.
It's just within our line items.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Burrell, have you got anything for us on downtown facilities? The agenda points out a deconstruction update.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. It's been a busy several weeks on the Center of Government project. But if you want me to focus only on deconstruction, I'll report on deconstruction right now.
We always enjoy a broad discussion.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about deconstruction, then cover some of the other things that have been going on since I last came to this committee. I am working with Holt, and they are negotiating with a subconsultant that is going to provide some services for as we go into the deconstruction for salvaging and deconstruction, kind of advising them as we put it together, kind of scope of work for a contractor, and doing kind of a salvage inventory of materials that we can salvage from all three of the buildings. And then that subconsultant working with Holt will then approach local agencies that could either recycle, reuse a lot of those materials before we start the actual deconstruction. So we think it'll be a great partnership in working with Holt and their subconsultant. Since they're still negotiating the agreement, I won't say the name of them yet, but we think it's a great team. We had met maybe about a month and a half ago with the professor from the Cornell Construction Lab, and also our Recycling and Materials Management Department, and also Finger Lakes Reuse, to kind of come up with a plan on how to move forward with really taking advantage and optimizing how we can do a good deconstruction. Remember, maybe it's been 3 months ago that Kat McCarthy from Recycling Materials Management did a small presentation, and from that, we're working to see how we can maximize either recycling, reusing, or repurposing materials from these three buildings. So I think we have a good plan, and having worked with Holt and then bringing in the sub-consultant, I think will help us move forward in that direction. It'll be much more than what we did at the Baker Dental building. And we're going to, one of the things that I emphasized to Holt over a month ago was that we want to have good records and inventory. where everything is going, almost like manifests that we can show where all these materials and components of these three buildings are going. Also, we are scheduled to meet the week after next with a contractor to do the deconstruction. And this contractor has worked with us before. It's a team that would do the abatement and the deconstruction. They're very reputable among historic Ithaca, Finger Lakes reuse, and significant elements. And they themselves, at least the company that would do the deconstruction, actually has other offshoots where they use a lot of the material that they remove and created other industries. Steel, they use the steel, they refabricate steel. It's actually quite a story. So I think when we have negotiated that agreement, I will share a little bit more about their firm and their capabilities. So we're meeting with them week after next, doing a site visit. We're actually going to be meeting at the KeyBank building there, walking through the buildings, going over the scope of work, introducing the sub-consultant that HALT will be working with, and kind of establishing the plan for the salvage, the abatement, and the deconstruction. Schedule-wise, we are looking at starting the deconstruction, which includes the abatement and that initial salvage. So when I say starting in September, that doesn't mean we're going to start tearing things down. It's going to take a period of time to really do the salvage, then do the abatement, then come back and do some additional salvage, because in some of the buildings we have asbestos in the sheetrock, in the taping compound. So if there's anything affixed to the walls of those areas, we can't remove it until we abate it. So the initial salvage will be things that are not on what we term non-hot walls, where there's no asbestos. That can be removed. Then we do the abatement, come back and remove the rest of those, fixtures or light salvage items. And then once that happens, then we would get into the deconstruction phase of the project. So that's our schedule. It is consistent with the overall project schedule, so we're not behind schedule. And so things are looking good in that respect. Any questions on the construction portion?
No, I do. Oh, Randy.
Thank you for all that detail, and I'm glad that we're being transparent on this. Will there be a list of all the materials that potentially could be recycled, that could be distributed to various entities? And
yes. Yeah, I mean, I can get into further detail, but yes, the sub-consultant will do that as part of that salvage survey and then existing materials inventory. So we'll do that, and then the meeting that we're going to have in about a week and a half is then sit down with the contractor that we're looking at working with and saying, okay, of all of these, this portion of that inventory is either on non-asbestos, walls, so that can be done initially as that initial salvage. As you recall, 308 North Tioga, which is the former professional building, Historic Ithaca has rights to really anything in the building. So we will then share that list with Historic Ithaca, have them tell us what they want to take, or what they would like us to either repurpose, or that they would say, hey, if you can repurpose this in the new building, you can have it.
So they have rights to anything in or on the building?
Correct.
Even the bricks?
Correct.
Exterior bricks?
Yeah.
I'm completely against that, and I would like to challenge that, and I'd like Morty to look into that. That's not right. I mean, we want to work with Historic Ithaca, but that was a blurb in the agreement that we never signed, and I'd like Historic Ithaca to respond to that, and maybe we'll invite them to the next downtown meeting. That's just ridiculous in my mind. So, thanks.
Okay.
So yeah, I will review that again with Maury. I mean, it was signed back when Jonathan Wood was here, and it was added to the agreement, and it was initialed. We were told that it's legally binding, but, I mean, my sense in having talked with Historic Ithaca, I don't think they're going to that level. I think they're really interested in the light salvage components, light fixtures, hardware, things of that sort. And that's all I can tell you at this point, because they attended a meeting, as you recall, I think at the same time that Kat McCarthy did her presentation. And then she sent an email out to, I think, included legislators, reminding us about, that they had rights to materials from that building.
I thought it was just the outside grading. I didn't realize it was everything.
Yeah.
So that's my issue. So.
Yeah.
I think point noted, but thanks for clarifying that, because, was it involved with the acquisition of the property, or was it something related to the SHPO negotiations? And you've clarified
that part that Randy's raising is in relation to the purchase, when we sold, or when they sold the property to the county.
Any questions for Rel? Okay, well, I can't wait to hear the downtown facilities report next month. Mike.
I just wanted to, are we talking about other things or just deconstruction?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to Arel for being part of the team that made the presentations on the center of government. I happened to attend them all, and so I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about Arel's wife's crock pot. But seriously, he led the discussion by giving a history of the project and turned it over to the architects and Norma from the county administration to talk about the whole concept, and did a great job for us.
Thank you, Mike. Well, yeah, I was going to mention that, and Mike should actually get many brownie points because he attended all of them. Initially, I think he said I think you initially said you might miss one of them, and I can't remember which one it was. But no, he attended each of them. Many of you attended. I think they went well. I'm glad we went to the we had the 5 community engagement sessions. We started at Groton, then went to Enfield, then Dryden, then beginning of this week was Caroline, and we ended Tuesday here. And so it was well attended. I kept refining my crock pot or slow cooker analogy to this project because basically I said, I've been involved 25 years. Mike has been involved, so it was not a microwave meal. It's taken a while to get to where we are. But no, they went well. I'm glad we did those, the initial. So that's the first of 3 meetings we'll have. The next one will be in July. We haven't scheduled yet, probably mid to late July, where we'll come back with actually something more substantive, where they can actually see potential, an idea of what the building may look like. That will be shared with this group or legislators prior to that. And then the third one will be in September, and that'll be more of a final type building kind of idea of what the building will look like. So those have gone well. This morning, first thing, we met a group of 14 of us at Holt's offices to focus on grant funding opportunities because there's a deadline coming up the end of July. And so 14 of us that include planning sustainability staff that are sitting behind me, myself, Holt, one of the sub-consultants, Fisher, Tatum Engineering, that's also a sub-consultant on the energy side, Tetra Tech. We were all discussing kind of what each group has to put together as to submit applications for three grant opportunities that we're looking at that are due the end of July. And I think really the lion's share of a lot of that will be on planning sustainability, Halt and Tatum and Fisher to gather that, but we each have pieces in putting that together. So we'll be meeting on a weekly basis to be able to hit that July 31st deadline.
Randy.
Yeah, Monica Savage did a great job of arranging them all as well, and I think they went really well. And I thought the presentation from Holt was good at explaining where the buildings were and whatnot. I think our website is good, that, you know, it's all very transparent. I think it's really good. Actually, I was on it and I liked all the information on it. The only thing missing is the finances. So I think that in our next meeting, downtown facilities, and maybe through budget and capital, I can go on OpenGov and look at our capital plan, but the public can't. So we need to present something on our website that clearly understands, people understand the financial impacts and also savings from less rented spaces. And to show our capital plan as it goes up and down, I think that it would bring some comfort to people, understand the finances of it, because the most negative I hear about this is, why are we spending $50 million on this building? Because they don't understand anything more than, why are we spending that kind of money? So I think we need to do a better job of that.
Okay.
Thank you. Arel, thanks. Are there any further questions? Keep us posted.
All right, I will. Thank you.
Enjoy the heat.
I have another facilities question though.
Okay, and while we've got you here.
The library. Is there every time I go by the library, I just kind of look down and kind of wince a little bit. And is there a plan for sprucing that up this year?
Yes. However, that has been delayed because the contractor that will be doing that work will be doing the deconstruction and another project that are higher priority, which is the Code Blue that we have to get done. And unfortunately, there's just too many projects converging at the same time. And so, yes, I walked through with that contractor almost a month ago. So they know the scope of work and what needs to be done. But now that we're coming into the summer season, they're swamped. I mean, they've got commitments for schoolwork. And so I can only pull so many favors, and I need the favor right now for the Code Blue Emergency Shelter. We're actually going to be meeting with them next week to discuss that project. But yes, I'm aware of that. We've already met with the contractor, so they know the scope of work and what needs to happen. So my goal is that will occur before the end of the year.
Okay. I think a general cleaning would be a good place to start. Maybe it's a different contractor, I don't know. But it needs to be power washed, and the benches are all bad and rotting, and it doesn't present well for the county. So.
That's actually part of the scope of work that we discussed. We would not power wash like the IFAS or the drive-it that you see, because it'll take that off. And there's brickwork also along Cuga Street that they're going to be power washing. We're going to replace the awnings. We're going to paint basically everything that you see, structural steel, the concrete piers that we have. We have to do some work on a couple of the piers, the bases where there's some oxidation. As far as kind of cleaning part, you know, what you were talking benches, we can have our staff do that. So yeah, that's one that I see often because I come to that corner to go to the Whole Health on Green Street. So I can't look down because I'm driving, but I'm well aware of improvements that we need to make there. I know the staff, at least aside from that building, around these properties, they are doing well in maintaining the landscaping, litter. They take care of the litter. Over at the health department, that fob reader that as you come in that was rusted, that's been replaced. I don't know if you've been up there the last couple of weeks. And so I've let staff know that, you know, to focus on the exterior because it gives county residents, so that the public come to our building an impression when they see those things. But as I've said before, we don't have a lot of money to spend on those things. They're not the highest priority, but we do have our cleaning staff take time on a daily basis to go around the building, pick up litter, you know, maintain the grounds. We've hired some seasonals this year because we just have so much going on with the moves for the Center of Government project. We're going to be moving over the next month several departments back, and we'll be moving county administration and in human resources to the 5th floor of the whole health building on Green Street. And then ITS will be moving into the 3rd floor of the old jail. County attorney will be moving down to HR space at the old jail. And then we have been looking at several properties with Norma, J. Franklin, Corsa, Lauren, and assessment and Board of Elections for temporary space while we start the deconstruction. So a lot of moves. So we've hired additional staff to help with the moves, but also groundskeeping as we come into the summer months. So I hear you. I want to take care of the library, but it's tough to get the contractors that are willing to do the work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Earl.
All right.
And we understand. All right. We've put a lot on your plate.
Thank you. All right.
Go to the ball at you.
Katie, we don't mean to ignore you. Did you have anything for the committee today, or?
No, I just participated in a lot of the stuff you guys talked about, so I made a lot of notes here to follow up with various people.
Thanks. Thanks for being with us. Frank Doldo and Fernando de Aragon have been with us patiently through the meeting. We didn't have anything on the agenda for you. Did you want to advise the committee of anything before we adjourn?
No, I just had a budget adjustment. I was here in case anybody had questions on that. That's all.
Okay. Thanks, Frank. Hi, Fernando.
I just wanted to say good morning. And also, just to let you know, we approved, the Transportation Council approved the new Transportation Improvement Program. This is a 5-year program of projects using federal funding for surface transportation. And it's an important document for us, and it includes, just to give you an idea of scale, it includes $84 million in federal dollars coming into the community over the next 5 years. That's, when you add the local matches and the state matches, that's over $100 million over 5 years in surface transportation projects.
It's good to be
The
aware
document
of.
is available on our website, and we're happy to answer any questions on that.
Is that anything that ultimately comes to the legislature for approval or review, or
no, although there are county projects in the program that, as they advance, yes, they will. I'm sure Jeff and his staff will be bringing them to you to approve the different stages of advancing the project.
Very good. Good to know the scope of the transportation work that'll be going on over the next few years. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike.
I would just mention that interviews will be proceeding next week on the new director for our MPO. It's going to replace Fernando when he takes his retirement.
A lot of those interviews taking place over the next few months. And
I think
previous
that's
few months.
when they didn't tell us about when we ran for this office, was that we were going to have to hire so many people, serve on so many committees.
Yeah, you have been a lot. Yeah.
Just committee information. No, I actually need some approval here. Advisory board appointments to the Air Service Board: Kurt Anderson, Michael Horan, and Peggy Coleman. Moved by Mike, second by Greg. Discussion, any reason to go into executive session to discuss these, or?
I believe those are all based on the positions in which they hold in their organizations or recent changes within their organizations. Is that right, Katie?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
That's correct, yeah. So these are all based on, Mike is with Teganic Aviation.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? We have minutes from May 15th. We have a motion to approve those. Randy, second by Greg. Any discussion, questions, clarifications? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Any committee member reports this morning? We've covered a lot of ground and buildings.
Good meeting.
If not, we'll be meeting next month, and we only have one legislature meeting, so I imagine we'll see some of these resolutions moving forward to that.
Continues to be a sore subject with me, but I understand.
I voted with you, Mike.
I know you did. Me too.
All right, if there's no further business, shall we adjourn? And thanks to the department heads for sticking around. Were there any questions on the budget adjustments? We had 4 of them in here for planning sustainability, 1 for the airport on utilities, 1 for the airport on automotive equipment and advertising costs, and 1 from the highway department for bridge materials. With hearing no questions, we'll stand adjourned.
Thank you, Rob.